All right, I want to welcome everyone to the Senior Lawyers Division Tech Tips program, non-CLE. We're pleased to have Jeff Allen and Ashley Hallene teach us about some of the items that they feel and all of us, I'm sure, will welcome knowledge of key things in this particular area. So, Jeff and Ashley, if you could introduce yourselves and move forward.
I'm Jeff and she's Ashley.
Okay. If that's all the introduction you need, then you can get into the substance.
We've been doing a lot of tech stuff for the division and for the division solo for many, many years. And one of the things that we do is a lot of CLE program and a lot of education. Marvin asked us to do this program. Normally, the program we do most often is a 60 tips in 60 minutes program. Marvin said, look, if you cut the jokes out and if you get down to the serious stuff, you can probably do it in a half an hour, so I'm going to give you half an hour to do it. Well, the bad news is that when we cut all the jokes and the fun stuff out, it was only 23 minutes, so I had to add some of the jokes back in. Anyway, we're going to talk to you today about some fairly serious issues with respect to technology that we think are going to be interesting to you, maybe perhaps to some of you a little bit scary and perhaps rightfully so, but we're also going to give you some ideas as to how to better protect yourself with respect to technology. The reason that we look at it that way, and by the way, we'll make this slide deck available so you'll have contact information for us. You need to start from the premise that technology is a double-edged sword. It's a great asset, but it's also a serious threat. Used well, it can help your life, it can help your practice, it can make things easier for you. Improperly used, it can devastate your life, it can kill your practice, it can cost you your law license. So it requires your attention, and it can no longer be ignored. There was a long time that a lot of people, particularly people who are in the older demographic, said, I can just kind of, pretend technology doesn't exist, I'll ignore it, I won't deal with it. You can't do that anymore. The ABA has said you can't do that. Many state bars have said you can't do that. If you don't keep current in technology, you risk your license. If you don't keep current in technology, you risk your identity. You risk your whatever financial value you have, whatever assets you have, being taken by the bad guys. So we decided we were going to call this the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, Ashley is one of my favorite people, and she's a pleasure to work with, but sometimes I forget how young she really is. And when I told her the good, the bad, and the ugly was going to be the topic, she said to me, I understand what the good and the bad is, but what's the ugly? And she didn't get the literary reference that those of us who are senior obviously would have gotten, because when you talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, you're talking about a Clint Eastwood movie, and we all know that. It was before Ashley was born. Anyway, what we're going to talk to you about is 30 tips in 30 minutes because lawyers need and cannot afford not to have and use the best available technology. Let's start with the good. Technology can help you in many ways. It can help you live better. It can help you live longer. It can help you enjoy your life more. It can help you get things done more easily. It can even help you with your practice. One of the things that we recommend strongly that you consider both in your personal life and your professional life is to cut down on the quantity of paper. We're killing too many trees. Paper takes up too much space. I have been doing programs on continuing legal education on technology for almost 30 years. I have never asked this question and had an affirmative response. How many of you that are still in practice, or even with your personal records, have a complete backup of every paper document in your files? Well, that's the first time I've gotten a yes in 30 years. You have a complete paper backup of every document in your files, in your law office, in your professional and your personal life. You're amazing. My hat's off to you. But what that means is he's got a whole bunch of storage space that he's using that he shouldn't have to be using. Because you can back up your stuff much easier and much more securely electronically. I carry around in my pocket a complete copy of all of the documents that are part of what's left of my legal practice. I'm semi-retired. when I was practicing actively, I could still do that. Technology has become our travel agent. We don't have travel agents like we used to. We call up or we go on the internet and we make reservations for flights. We make reservations for hotels. We make reservations for dinner. There are a tremendous number of apps that are available to make your life easier with respect to travel.
Technology also gives us access to all those odds and ends jobs that it seems almost insurmountable to plan for. So they have websites like Fiverr where you can access people who are offering their services. They compete against each other. You can bid against each other, read their reviews. And it's anything. It could be writing a business plan. It could be designing a logo. It could be designing a business card or a website, travel planning, interior design, all of those things where you're like, how do I go about hiring a professional? How do I do it, for an affordable way? This website gives you access to that. So I recommend checking it out. Being sedentary at your desk is a very big threat to your health, and people are finding more and more that the amount of time we spend sitting at the office is causing, physical damage. It's causing damage with our heart. So look for ways to kind of be more active throughout the day. They have sit-stand desks that you can use to kind of alter your environment pretty easily. Things like the QV is an elliptical that you can put under your desk to keep your feet moving, just to keep that blood circulating so it's not pooling in those joints. Diet's an important part of wellness and well-being, and so there's a lot of technology tools out there to help you with your diet if you're trying to follow a certain kind of diet, whether it's low salt, low fat, low carb, everything under the sun, only carbs and fat. These are some of the apps out there that can help you. One of my favorites is the MyFitnessPal because it allows you, if you're being a medical professional and is concerned about your diet, it allows you to print out a report of the food logs that you keep and email it over or bring it into the office whenever you're meeting with them. Other tools, wearable technology is really big and continues to be on the rise. The Fitbit Charge 3 is an excellent tool out there, not only for, counting your steps, monitoring your activity, your heart rate levels. You can also automatically keep track of your sleeping patterns, which is a good way to see if you're getting the restful and restorative sleep that you need at night, and also to be able to alert your doctor if there's patterns that are getting disrupted. When you travel, a lot of times, having access to Wi-Fi and email is a way to also have access to telephone communication. There are portable Wi-Fi providers out there, like LocalMe, that provide international access at a substantially less expensive price than what you would pay, say, your cell phone carrier. So whereas I think AT&T is $10 a day to have the Wi-Fi on your phone, with this device you can buy up to 3 gigabytes of Wi-Fi for $15. And you can use it anytime, anywhere. You have access in all countries, and you can get it a little bit less if you specify the country you want to use it for.
Yep.
Yes. So you can buy it for Canada. I just used mine last week for a trip to Canada, and so I had 3 gigabytes, which is more than I use in a month, that I could use anywhere. And it works on top of mountains, and I've used it quite heavily.
I never go to Europe without my own device. Sometimes. I don't have that device. I use a different device. She uses that device. I have a different device that I use that does the same thing. And I use it all the time. It's on all the time. Sometimes if I can't get a connection for some reason, I'll sign on to a local one and use a VPN. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. No problem. We'll get to it.
Apple Watch is a handy tool if you're a Apple or iPhone user. There's a lot of apps that can help you with tracking your fitness and suggesting workouts. They have things that allow you to work out anywhere with just, body metrics. You can do 5 or 10 minutes and kind of get that activity going, get that heart rate up, in periods of time, over time, as opposed to, trying to get into a gym, especially if you're traveling and on the road a lot. So mental health care is also a big issue, especially, seniors getting older. A lot of times it's difficult to get into a mental health care professional, or if you're in a more remote location, you might not have as much access to them. So they now have on-demand mental health care. And the larger service is interesting because they do allow you to work with their billing to submit their bills to your insurance. So if you have coverage on your insurance, you can get additional coverage that way. If not, their sections are pretty reasonable, and you're dealing with a certified mental health care professional service.
Yeah, don't take this personally. We're not suggesting any of you need mental health care. It's available.
And if you're not quite comfortable talking to individuals about it, there's also the option of self-help mental health care. Pacifica is one out there that you can do kind of a self-help guide as far as different meditations or different activities that you can do to try and help your overall mental well-being, lower stress, which obviously the adverse effects of stress on your health are astronomical.
Yeah, FYI, I just got back 2 weeks ago from being in Las Vegas. I'll get to you in a second. At the Consumer Electronics Show, and one of the things that's happened in the last 3 years at the Consumer Electronics Show is that what we call health tech or wearable technology relating to health has become probably the fastest growing segment of technology. What started out as a couple of dozen representatives 3 years ago or 4 years ago was in the thousands. It was amazing. Every place I turned, there was more health tech. What's happened is that as the baby boomer generation has started to age, it's become more health conscious, and so technology has evolved and is evolving in that direction, creating all kinds of stuff that relates to the ability to be healthier, the ability to deal with medical conditions, and it's something that we will be living with and that will be helping us live for the next however long we're alive. All right, because we're question, yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. You would select one from options that are available to you based on what you feel comfortable with, and it would be an ongoing relationship. I think they said most of their clients usually do about 2 sessions a month, so somewhere in that, kind of in that range, whatever is meets your needs.
And if you're not happy for some reason with the one you've got, it's easy to switch. Okay, let's talk about the bad. Technology can allow the bad guys to ruin your life or practice. How does that happen? Well, we've all heard about identity theft. Anybody not know what identity theft is? That's when somebody pretends they're you, opens up a bank account in your name, a credit card in your name, steals all your money, and goes on and basically can destroy your life. They can also destroy your practice that way. There are scams and shams occurring on the telephone. They're occurring on the internet. They're occurring through email. I won't steal Ashley's next slide, but there are a number of different scams that are available for the asking. And I would bet that there's not a person in this room who has not received an email that was soliciting participation in something that was fraudulent. If you are there, you're extremely lucky. The other thing you have to talk about is data loss, client confidential information. If you don't take appropriate steps to protect client confidential data, you put your license on the line. And I don't know a state in the union that will not take a license away for people who are grossly negligent with respect to the handling of technology so that their client's confidential information is compromised. And last but not least, and it's certainly not last in the world, but just last on our list of things we're going to talk about, is ransom. That's where somebody sneaks in some programming to your computer, locks it up, and says, if you don't pay us a certain amount of money, or more often than not they ask for Bitcoin, we're not going to give you your computer back. And there have been major companies who have been known to pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to get access to their own computers. So these are all risks that you have to deal with, and we're classing that as the bad. Ashley, tell them about tax scams.
Well, tax season is coming up, so you might see an increase or a rise in people trying to pull off tax scams. I had a colleague whose mother called him in tears, absolutely panicky. She was, elder and in a home, and she'd gotten a call that she had been not paid taxes 5 or 6 years ago, and that they were going to come and arrest her if she didn't pay them this amount right away. So she was at fear of being arrested and absolutely distraught over it. And that amount of stress is one, it's horrible that they would do that to people, but two, it is completely out of character for the IRS. They will not call you like that or send you an email with a link like that. So we want to make you aware so that your loved ones won't hopefully fall prey to this or go through that sort of fear and panic and chaos, if they get a call out of the blue like that.
And it's not just the IRS scams. It's utilities, too. My wife got a call from PG&E telling them that she had to give them money because our check bounced. And she knew enough not to do anything because, without talking to me, I haven't sent a check to PG&E in 15 years. I pay online. So if our check bounced, it's obviously fraudulent. So I told her, don't worry about it. But a lot of people give them information. They called back later and talked to me, and I said, okay, here's the deal. You send somebody over with proper identification in a PG&E uniform and bring me the bounced check, and I'll give you a replacement. They never showed up. Okay, unfortunately, this one does not project as well as I would like, but what it is an email, and if we have time after the program, I'll put the email on the screen itself. And it's an email that appears to be from Amazon, right? A lot of people might think that really is from Amazon, but it's not. If you look carefully at the email, you'll see that it is sent from somebody other than Amazon. What you can do when you look at an email is if you go to the top line where it says who it's from, if you put your pointer there and click on it, it will give you the full email address. The email address is not an Amazon email address. Now, I know darn well Amazon is not going to send me an email address from, diddlysquat.com. And I probably get 30 or 40 emails a day that are this kind of stuff from phony addresses. And it's the easiest way to know something is fraudulent. It's not the only way, but it's the easiest way. It's very easy to create fraudulent letterhead. I spent literally 10 minutes collecting on the Internet seals from various government agencies, which these are the seals that they would put on various things, including letterhead, from financial institutions and from major companies. All of those are readily obtainable by anybody with the most basic technical skills. And then you drop them into an email or you drop them onto a Microsoft Word document and you create your own letterhead. And now you have the ability to create a fraudulent email that looks something like that one. It says, oh, look, it's from Amazon. And people fall for that, and you can't let that happen. We need to talk to you about email safety. First thing you need to know about email safety is you don't want to click on links that are provided by suspicious email, and I class as suspicious everything that I don't know exactly where it came from. If it came from somebody in my law office, that's fine. I'll click that link. If it comes from Ashley, I'll click that link. If it comes from somebody else, but not necessarily, unless it's somebody that I know and they've called me and they said, I'm sending you this link, it's okay. What I will do instead is I will type separately into the URL spot on the browser the URL, and I will go directly to the website and see whether or not what they're asking for is legitimate. The next thing you need to know is don't download or open attachments that are sent along with email. If you look at this email, it's got a presentation that somebody supposedly is sending me. Now, people send me presentations all the time. I might, if I wasn't who I am, just click on that and say, okay, let's see what the presentation is. By doing that, what I am doing is inviting whoever sent that email to download whatever they want into my computer. What they are going to download most likely is either an ad, and that's what that presentation is, or they're going to download some malware into the computer, which is going to allow them to take control of it, keep it from me, try to ransom it back to me, or steal information from me that will allow them to steal my identity or to send out emails purporting to be me, saying whatever they want to say. And this is a problem that you have whenever you click on a download link or when you click on an attachment that somebody sends in an email that is not properly taken care of. So how do you protect yourself other than by not opening these things? First thing is you get a good piece of software that will go through and scan all of your email and all of your incoming information for malware. And you turn it on and use it. Having it on your computer is it's like my theory about exercise machines. I've got a house full of exercise machines that I don't use under the theory that by having them there, somehow I will get in shape just by osmosis. Well, it doesn't work. If you don't turn on these programs and you don't use them regularly, they do you no good. Other things you can do include, Ashley? Yes? Norton is pretty good. No, I use a program called Malware Byte, which was recommended to me by the tech staff at Apple Computer, by the senior tech staff at Apple Computer. And so that's the one I use. Malware Byte is one word. And they have a free BYPES, Computer Byte. They have a free version and they have a professional version. You pay a little bit extra for the professional version, gives you a lot more protection. But Norton is very good. I won't say bad things about it.
I will say one caveat to what Jeff was saying on the last slide. He mentioned that on emails that he knows exactly who they came from, he would go ahead and open them. Just because it has the name of someone that you recognize and know, like if it,
No, I said if
Hallene,
they called me and told me they were sending it.
Oh, okay, I missed that part. If it's written in a way that is not their tone of voice or horrible spelling and grammatical errors, go ahead and question it. It takes a half second to call them up and say, hey, did you send this for me to open? And that would save you a lot of time. We had the CEO of our company who supposedly sent out an email, and that's how they used his email as a backdoor to get in, and a lot of people opened it because it was the CEO. All right, when it comes to disposing of your data, you don't just want to recycle your technology. So if you have a hard drive that you're trying to get rid of, you absolutely need to go ahead and wipe it clean before you send it anywhere. Even before you donate to a school or university, give it to a family member, especially if it has client information on it.
And wiping it clean doesn't mean just simply erasing it or reformatting it. All that does is destroy the directory. All the data is still there and recoverable.
So we wanted to give you an easy step that you can use to secure your personal Wi-Fi router or your Wi-Fi router at the office, and that's change your default administration password. Enable the WPA2 encryption. That's just a higher level of encryption security. Make sure you're using strong passwords for your wireless network. This is interesting information about just how secure is e-media that you end up disposing, like we mentioned earlier. Over 200 secondhand hard disks and solid-state drives were purchased from eBay and Craigslist in 2016, and 67% of those contained everybody's personal identifiable information still. And once it's out there, you have no idea whose hands these things have been into. So when it comes to strong passwords, how do you actually set up one that's strong that you can remember, right? There's always a trade-off between convenience and security. Passphrases are going to be stronger. They're usually longer words than passwords. Your typical, I think what's most common one, 123 password. Actually, 123 is one of the top most common ones. Try using an entire sentence such as what time is coffee. And you want to change characters for letters or letters for numbers, things like that. Add in exclamation points, things like that if you can, if your password will use it. Use a password storage device to save your passwords as a backup. How can you tell if you're on a web page whether or not it's encrypted?
Hold on for a second. Does anybody here not know what encryption means? Okay, go ahead.
Cool. So if you're browsing online and you want to make sure it's somewhere that you might be exchanging sensitive information and you want to make sure it's encrypted, the way that you can tell if it's an encrypted web page is to look for the HTTPS sign, and then you'll also see that there's a lock next to it. That lock is what notifies you that you have logged into something encrypted. There's a reasonable presumption of security with that.
How many of you are on Facebook? How many of you take pictures of where you are and say, I just went to the such and such place in Las Vegas? Nobody does that? I get those all the time. Tell them why they shouldn't do that, Ashley.
So when you do that, not only, say you put on your Facebook page, oh, I'm going away for a week-long cruise, can't wait to get out there. And then your friend of a friend, or a friend of yours puts a comment on it, like, have a good time. Well, when they put that comment on it, all of their friends can see that they're commenting, which means not only are people that you're quasi-familiar with now aware that you're away from your home for a prolonged period of time, but friends of your friends are aware that you're away from home for a long period of time. And that can grow exponentially. You just don't know who is seeing that information. If you don't have all the security measures in place for your Facebook page and that becomes public or readable from a public stage, then anybody who's coming off the internet on your Facebook can find out that you're away from home, which creates an insecurity and danger for you. Anytime you have two-factor authentication available, use it. Now, what two-factor authentication is, it's sort of like a username and password and then one other extra step, such as a text message, a code sent to your phone via text message or via email, or a robot call saying this is the code that you put in that authenticates that you are the person who has this account. That is absolutely a lifesaver when it comes to protecting your information, especially if you have sensitive information on there. There's a lot of options out there that you can use. It's important to manage your digital footprint. More and more people are getting online. We're putting information online. We're not aware of what information is online for us. It's not a vanity thing, but every once in a while, go ahead and search your name in your favorite search engine. Most often it's Google. You can use whatever you prefer to use. Also pull up the image search to see where your name is getting put in with images so that you can tell if you have accounts that you've completely forgotten about that you need to go and shut down. Younger generations may have had a MySpace account. Those are still hanging around out there if you don't know how to delete them. Deactivate your old accounts. Make sure your privacy settings are in place. Try to use a secondary email for all of your junk mails. That way, if it gets sold to some listserv, it's not invading your inbox.
Okay, now we get to the ugly. I distinguish between the bad and the ugly by virtue of helplessness. The bad is basically a collection of things that you have reasonable control over. You decide whether you're going to click the link on that email. You decide whether you're going to download whatever it is that they want you to download and open up on your computer. So you have some control. There are a whole bunch of things you can't have control over. All you can do is hope that you are reasonably lucky, try to be careful, and limit your exposure. You can't even avoid it by trying to stay off the Internet because there are places where you just can't stay off the Internet. Just to give you an idea, this is a collection of the biggest data breaches of the 21st century. The one that really stands out is 3 billion people affected by Yahoo's data breach. Think about that. 3 billion people had their data compromised by Yahoo. The other one that's really scary is that 143 million people had their data, including very seriously confidential data, compromised by the Equifax breach fairly recently. Anybody here not think they have an Equifax account? You got one, whether you ever opened one or not. They've got all this information on you, and all that information was put at risk if you're one of the 143 million who was affected. You have no control over that. And they didn't want to tell you. In fact, the information was hidden for a while. But you can take a look at the list, and you'll find, I'm sure, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 companies that had major data breaches that you had no control over. Anybody here stay at the Marriott ever in the last dozen years? Okay, did you give them an email address? Marriott had a big data breach. Guess what? Probably some of your information. I mean, they may have a credit card. They may have your address. They may have just your email. It's unclear what they got. These are things you have to worry about. The other thing that you should know that's fairly scary, in 2016, Verizon did a data breach investigation report in which they concluded that 93% of recorded breaches, attackers needed only minutes to compromise the computer system. In 83% of the organizations that documented breaches, it was weeks or longer before they discovered the breach. And in most cases, the breach was not discovered by the organization, but it was discovered because one of their customers complained that their data had been compromised. And that's how they found out about it. So how do you protect yourself? You minimize your exposure. You stay off of things like public Wi-Fi. which is what you were asking me about, Jack. And public Wi-Fi is not just when you're out in the street and there's a wild Wi-Fi thing that's open, or going to the airport. How many of you are on the Wi-Fi system here in the hotel? That's public Wi-Fi. If you're on public Wi-Fi, and sometimes you can't avoid it, you need to communicate, you don't have a private hotspot like Ashley's that she talked about with you, you use something called a VPN. How many here know what a VPN is? Stands for Virtual Private Network. The easiest example I can give you of a VPN is, and we're going to San Francisco for the annual meeting, so I'll check this out. BART, the Bay Area Rapid Transit System, built a tunnel through the Bay, and it runs trains through the tunnel from San Francisco to Oakland and from Oakland to San Francisco. If you think of the Bay as the Internet, if you think of the tunnel as the VPN, and if you think of the train as the carrier of the information and the passengers as the information, that's what a VPN does. It protects you, it gives you an insulated tunnel through the cyberspace that gives you protection and encryption so that your data is reasonably secure even though you're exposed publicly on a public network. Okay, we are now at exactly 30 minutes, so I'm going to have to stop. I will give you one last tip, and that's that these are some really good, useful resources that Ashley and I wrote, 2 of which were published by this division. And we'll be happy to stay for a few more minutes and give you some opportunity to stump the experts. And when you get the slide deck, because you were here, you will know what other people won't, that we've added about 20 extra slides at the back as bonus slides that were slides we just decided not to use for this program or that we used in other programs that we thought would be useful to you. So you're really getting 50 tips in 30 minutes.
Thank you, Jeff and Ashley. We appreciate it. On behalf of the Senior Lawyers Division, I hope all of you at least got a tidbit of information that would be useful.